All right, folks, our time here in Delhi, India is quickly coming to an end. So we thought that we'd get together and tell you a little bit about kind of our lessons that we've learned while we've been here on the ground. So, Lauren, I'm going to put the question to you. What's the biggest takeaway for you coming out of COP7?
Well, I can't say I learned a whole lot, considering they kept it quite secretive. And when we were allowed to go to events, they allowed the media to go to a few side events where they weren't really discussing legislation. They didn't talk about anything. They said a whole lot without saying anything, kind of like your progressive professors you see back home. Everything was talking in circles and trying to avoid any direct answers, especially the press meetings. I think that was probably our biggest challenge, was getting a real answer from the people that were allocated to give answers to the press. What would you say was your most difficult time in those press meetings?
It felt like some sort of Orwellian experiment. It was kind of like this newspeak where they weren't actually saying what they meant to say or ever answering our questions. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway was just understanding how this process works behind the scenes. It's totally non-transparent. It's totally unaccountable to anyone. And it's completely disconnected from the people on the ground who actually are affected by these policies. And honestly, Lauren, I think that your coverage here, we kind of split it up. I did the transparency stuff, the media stuff, and you did a lot of the vaping stuff. And for me, vaping was huge. The fact that these people are being kept outside of this important dialogue when they can actually lead to real health benefits, it's scary and depressing, and it was a huge takeaway for me, for sure. All right. Now, to pivot a little bit, it's the first time that either of us were in India. So were there any moments of culture shock here for you?
You know what, from the very first day we got here off the plane, we got onto the highway. And I don't know if people can try to imagine this, but imagine if you got rid of all of those lines on the highway and you just had like 5, 6, or 7 cars going side by side, and all of them wanted to turn to the furthest possible lane on either side, and everyone used their horn as much as possible, and some cars looked like they were kid buggies. It was insane. It was one of the most insane things I've ever seen, but I guess we learned how taxi drivers are so good at driving back home now.
Lauren. I think for me, okay, serious note, there was this huge Western mall right across from where our hotel was. And, you know, Brooks Brothers, Reebok, all the stores you'd be used to. But you had to put your bags, as you well know, through the sort of scanners that you'd find inside an airport. There were pat downs. I had a lighter on me. I had to give that in, let alone if I was carrying a knife, as I do at home sometimes. It was a crazy amount of security. And for me, that was a real culture shock, because going into a mall, like airports I get, but going into a mall, it was something that I think for me was a bit spooky, because I thought this is a country that deals so much with terrorism that this has now just become a part of their society. And so for me, I was like, damn, if we don't take care of our own society, is this something that we in the West might have to, I don't want to say look forward to, but might have to deal with down the road? And last thing about when it comes to my observations here was the difference in kind of the classes and how much poverty really was on the ground. We didn't go into the slums, but there were pockets of slums right beside, Western malls, and that was a bit much for me. Okay, I want to play a clip for our viewers. Yeah. We got this today. Just to give you one more little sneak peek. Sorry, the mosquitoes are cutting into me. Sneak peek of what's going on in the background here. Lauren, I think you asked a couple tough questions, and a couple of people didn't like it. And so what happened? Well, take a look for yourself. Out of curiosity, what sort of feedback were you getting? What sort of questions about your rebel media?
Who funds them?
Who funds them? What was the speculation?
Well, what do you think?
You don't.
Well, you get funding from tobacco or other.
So that's basically what we got every single time that we asked difficult questions. We were accused of being funded by big tobacco. Well, I got a news flash for you folks here at COP7, and frankly, anyone tuning in. We're not funded by big tobacco. We're funded by the little guy. We're a completely crowd-funded organization. And it's because of folks like you that Lauren and I were able to come here, and we thank you so very much for this eye-opening experience, and we hope we served you well. Final thoughts, Lauren?
No, absolutely. We couldn't make this possible without the people back home that sent us the money to come out to this event, because unlike the bureaucrats in here who actually do have agendas and are actually funded by governments with agendas, some of these nations in here own their own tobacco companies, and for some reason that's not a conflict of interest. Unlike them, we're actually going back to try and report as much news as possible to the little people. All of the guys in there didn't want to seem to be accountable to you, the people they were creating the legislation over. We want to bring that to you and be the ones who bring that information. And just thank you so much. And this is Lauren and Faith signing off for the Rebel.media. If you liked that video, then please make sure to hit the subscribe button below to see more.